There are thousands of careers in California, but how are we supposed to know which is the right career for us? If we're to spend 40 to 50 hours a week, over 10,000 hours a year, we're going to want to choose a career that we're best at and one that we love. And with the average American changing their jobs up to 7 times during their lifetime, finding the right career as soon as possible will contribute to better health and help you live a richer and fuller life. The right career is out there waiting for you, and I'm going to help you find it. I'm Freddy Cochran. Welcome to California Careers. Welcome to another edition of California Careers. I'm Freddy Cochran, your host. We're in Redondo Beach, California, on the Redondo Pier outside Mystical Joy. We're going to go inside and learn how to become a psychic. We're going to go inside and meet Joy the psychic. Let's go see how it's done. Well, welcome to another edition of California Careers. I'm Freddy Cochran, your host. Today we're in Redondo Beach, California with Joy the psychic. Hi, Joy.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Let's talk about, well, what exactly is a psychic?
Well, I kind of look at myself as a psychic or a visionary. I'm also an astrologer. It's something that I've studied for a long time. It started when I was in high school. And I just noticed when I was a kid how so many times I felt something or saw something or dreamt of something and they would come true. Mm-hmm. And my family would always giggle at me because once again I was able to tell them something that they didn't know. Wow. So they kind of recognized at an early age that that I was gifted in a certain area.
Okay, so you wanted to be a psychic, it sounds like, from a young age, or?
Well, it's not so much that I even wanted to be one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that that's what I had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have gifts in different areas, and it's not like I contemplated, I want to be a psychic, even though I always wanted to help people, but it was just something that I had, and people would ask me my opinion on something, or
mm-hmm.
what I thought was going to happen. And I would tell them, and I was correct most of the time.
Wow,
mm-hmm.
Oh, that's very cool. Tell us what's going on in here. There's a lot of stuff hanging from the ceiling. There's different rooms. What exactly happens under this roof?
Well, I recently opened this business about 1.5 years ago, and it's always been like a dream of mine to do this. And this is half retail store and a half psychic store, if you will. And I read tarot cards, and I read astrology and palms and things like that. And I also teach these subjects, but this is also 50% of a retail store, and I like mystical and magical and pretty things. And I've seen other mystical stores that were kind of dark, in my opinion, and I really wanted something that was light and bright and renaissance-y and lending itself to the positive side of life and the positive side of this business. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, this business is a very old business and has been around for centuries. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, in the past, it has gotten a very negative rap because there are some dark people or people who are charlatans and trying to make a lot of money on people saying, we got a spell against you or something like that. But I just wanted to say, to present a very lighthearted, God-filled, angel-filled environment where people felt comfortable and trusted in me and knowing that I was coming from a pure, good space. And once they saw my space and saw me, they would feel confident and I could be their confidant and help them.
Nice. You had mentioned you do tarot readings and astrology. So what is a tarot reading? What does that mean?
Well, I got my first deck of tarot cards when I was a junior in high school because there was someone, my mother's friend, said that I was gifted. So she gave me my first deck of tarot cards when I was a junior, and I started playing around with them, and then I also went to one of her classes. Basically, there are 78 cards in the deck, and it is very close to the 52 cards that we have in our deck, mm-hmm. with the exception of the major arcana. But anyway, they help focus, for me, and I get different pictures or different visions from the cards, and it helps me when somebody would ask me, like about a love relationship or a money relationship or money question, that the pictures stimulate something in our subconscious and help us with counseling.
So the visions or something just come to you, and then you pull out cards for a specific client? Or?
Well, it's kind of both. Sometimes I don't need cards. I just pick up on energies and pick up on a vision that kind of comes to me. But I do use the cards too, as there's certain layouts that we do, spreads, and certain images show up and they help me focus on something, or it might trigger something in my subconscious or whatnot. But they are ancient, very valuable symbols and I teach these actually too.
Okay. So that's an integral part of the psychic reading is the tarot card, is that right?
It is,
Okay.
but not necessarily. You don't necessarily need just the cards because, there are other things that we take in consideration. It's just one piece, if you will, of the puzzle.
One piece, okay. Let's talk about astrology. How does that fit into a psychic's role?
Well, a lot of astrologers would not like to be called psychics, and sometimes psychics, I don't know, it has a negative connotation to some people, but I am a visionary. With regarding astrology, a lot of astrologers would not like to be considered psychics because it is an exact science. And I have studied the science for close to 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's been a hobby of mine too. I mean, even as a kid, and I found it fascinating, and now I teach astrology. But going back to the psychic part of it, it's not really considered psychic. There's a direct, book lesson of what all the signs mean, what all the planets mean, what all the planets in the houses mean, and they have a strict formula that they follow. So psychic ability into astrology, yeah, I think that your mind kind of goes off in different tributaries and tangents, but I do think that the foundation of astrology is really clearly a science.
Nice. Okay. Under this roof, you had mentioned that we do the psychic reading, the tarot readings, and it's all part of one, but you're also a teacher, right,
Yes.
under this roof.
Yes.
Tell us about your teaching career here.
Well, I've always, I think I've been told that I have a very good balance of right brain and left brain stuff, where, I have a really very clear and concise way of teaching somebody that I tell them the basics and say, this is really what you need to memorize. And this is fluff, and if you want to get into it later, that's fine. But I have a really clear way of delineating what you need to memorize, what is, verbatim. This is definitely something you need to learn strictly. And I have a way of simplifying things. As a matter of fact, one of my first astrology classes is Astrology Simplified. That when I first learned astrology, I thought it was like this huge mountain that I had to climb. But indeed, once it's broken down piece by piece, bite by bite, it becomes much more easy to digest and easy to comprehend. And that's, I think, my specialty.
So if I want to be a psychic, you can teach me how? Is that what you're teaching future psychics? You're teaching astrology, or what exactly are you teaching?
Well, that's an interesting question. Thanks, Fred. Actually, I'm not teaching you how to be a psychic when I'm teaching astrology. I'm teaching the art and the science of astrology. I also teach tarot, which is, again, a different thing, where I teach you the ancient symbols of the tarot. And this could mean this, and this means this, and look at the flowers here, the lilies of purity, or the different symbology in the tarot.
Okay.
But I also say sometimes that triggers something in your subconscious or something that you're feeling, and to always go with that feeling as well. But first you need to lay down the basics or the foundation.
Okay. Let's talk about, switch gears for a second, your education. What education does one need to get into this career?
Well, I myself have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in business, so I guess that's part of my business, being able to incorporate, being a student of business administration. But as far as what you need to be a psychic, I don't know if there's any formal education, but certainly there's a lot of education you can have under mentorships or things that you can learn from other people who are in the business. But I do caution you that there are people out there that, for example, might say to you, oh, I can give you 6 winning lottery numbers. And you give them a lot of money and you still don't hit the lottery. I mean, you need to be very careful with whom that you associate with, because there are people that don't have the the real heart and the knowledge there. To answer your question though, if someone were to come to me and want to study all the things that I've taught, which is developing your psychic ability, developing tarot, astrology, palmistry, numerology, I've taught feng shui, I've taught dream interpretation. So obviously everything that you learn gives you more of a toolbox from which to draw.
Okay.
Okay, and I also will say that the more arts that you have, under your umbrella, the more that you are qualified, I think, to teach people.
So it's recommended that you have a college background at least, but it's not necessary.
Well, I always recommended children or young people to have a college background because you learn more than just you think you learn. You learn how to communicate with people, you learn how to speak properly, you learn how to present yourself. There's so many perks that you learn with a degree that you wouldn't if you didn't go to school. Having said that, you don't necessarily, to be a psychic or an astrologer, you don't need a college degree. But again, the more knowledge you have on various subjects, the better off you're going to be.
Right. Now, is this governed by the state? Do we need a license or anything for this? Or can you just open up the doors and start getting clients and just start
Well,
up?
different cities have different ordinances. And I do have a business license in the city of Redondo Beach. I know that the city of Torrance has a different license. And I did have a license there once upon a time. But and also I have a tax ID number and all that kind of legal stuff.
But you got your business license through the city.
Yes, I did.
And
yes, I did.
That sounds like a good place to start.
And I also have a retail license through the state of California, and hence I
okay.
sell retail here too. So if you were to come into my store, I would recommend. I have a number of tarot decks and again teaching and whatnot. A little bit of everything.
Good deal. Let's go through a typical day of being a psychic. Now, you're in such a cool location here on the Redondo Pier, you probably get a lot of walk-by traffic. And if I just walk in here and I say, I want to try this, take me through a typical day.
Okay. Well, again, my business is pretty 50-50, where I have a retail store as well as being a counselor. And I've created this store, and if you notice, I don't know if your camera can see, but I have like 3 really nice little reading rooms that I've decorated with tarot cards and stars and glitters and moon. And I do that to make the people relax. So when you come into my store and maybe you've never had a reading before and you say, read my palms, and could possibly do that, or maybe read some tarot cards or figure out your birthday or whatever. And we have very short readings, 15-minute readings or 30-minute readings. And I don't think anybody has ever really walked away from my store with my knowledge of not being happy or satisfied. I feel that when they leave, they're definitely in a better spirit. And I have a lot of return business just because, again, I really care about the people that I speak to and counsel. And I try to always come from a very positive place. Of course, there are some negative things that happen in life, and sometimes what might happen is the rain falls, and I always focus on the rainbow after the rain.
You can actually guess someone's birthday? Is that right?
Guess them? Well, I've done that, but no, I don't guess their birthday. I ask their birthday, and from then I might tell them what they're going through or what they've gone through or what's coming up for them. But that's just by the sun in astrology.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's during the reading and you get a feeling for that person, and then you have a better understanding of maybe what month they were born, that type of thing?
Yes.
Very cool.
So if someone comes in and tells me that they are an Aries, born April 10th, the son of Aries, it would tell me a certain thing, but I would look into my ephemeris, which is a book of where the planets are. And if they were born in 1980, I would be able to see where the moon was, where Mercury was, and Venus and Mars and Jupiter. And it gives me, instantly when I look at their chart, I instantly get a feeling of who they are. And that helps me, and then when I open cards, it gives me a different dimension.
Now, do you have like returning customers like you mentioned? Take us through the typical day. So if you're not getting walk-ins, what are you doing in here to stay busy? to make money?
Well, that's interesting. Basically, sometimes I don't get walk-ins, and sometimes I just focus on my business. And, I put nice little things up in my store, or I price things, or I go through catalogs and I look for more merchandise. I also work on some marketing, and that's where the business degree comes in, and social media, Facebook, etc. Working on, trying to reach out and grab more of an audience, which is what I'm in the midst of doing now after being open for 14 months.
Wow. Okay, so marketing like through mailers or newspapers, something like that.
And I gotta think, you keep telling me going back to a typical day, I don't really know if any day is really typical, especially...
Atypical.
Yeah, really, exactly. Especially being here on the Redondo Pier. I mean, again, it's really pretty 50-50 that if I don't have readings, then I focus on retail, and then sometimes I may not have retail and I just focus on readings. And I do have meditations, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's a labyrinth on my floor.
Oh, cool.
And I have drum circles here. I have had that, and I also do meditation, or we have sound and incense. And
does your cat walk through this and try to make it to the center? To get the cat later.
She walks through it, but I don't know if she follows the path.
Now, is this a full-time gig, the psychic deal? It is a full-time job?
Well, I was working in aerospace for the last 12 years, and with the economy, I was laid off. I only had 12 years, and there are people who have 25 years, and being a part of the business part, I am the support system to engineers. So they are the fluff, the first to go. And I was looking for another job, and I really couldn't find anything, so I decided to open my own business here. But before I did that, even when I was in aerospace, a lot of people would call me and want me to do readings for them or do their astrology chart, and it was all by word of mouth. I never advertised. And over the past few years, I had quite a number of people who would come to my house and have some tea with me, and we would talk.
Cool.
But yeah.
I'd say we're looking forward to watching you do a reading later in the show and see you in action. That's going to be cool. Tell us, what do you love about this career? What's fabulous about it?
Well,
It's kept you going all this time.
I'm the kind of person that, number one, I like to be my own boss.
Okay.
And because I go by instinct. And many times, I listen to an inner voice that says, okay, Joy, you got to do it this way or this way. And I like that part. I really love my mornings free. So
great hours.
Yeah. I mean, I like to meditate in the morning, and I like to read in the morning, and I take my walks on the beach. So I like my mornings free to enjoy my coffee and my space. So I'd rather be more of a night owl than a morning person, quite frankly. So I like that part of being in my business, opening at noon. I love Redondo Beach. I love Redondo Beach. I've lived here for 25 years.
Wow.
And I love the ocean. I love being part of the pier and the boardwalk. And it just feels like I feel very blessed, and it's a wonderful career that I have. And I think
you mentioned earlier that you help people. They walk out and feeling more spiritual.
Absolutely.
You're helping people,
Absolutely.
making people's lives brighter. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Another cool thing I see about your career, you get to meet people, new people all the time,
Good
right?
point, good
You
point.
better have some social skills doing what you're doing, in this career.
It's true. It's true, and sometimes people come in and they're not in a happy place, or they're, they've come in, you never know what situation brought somebody into your life that day. They could have had a very negative experience or had some really bad news, and it's important to, sometimes just a smile is healing to people,
Sure.
And and thank you for reminding me that. And of course, it is a wonderful part of my career, meeting people, helping people, and being more open and free.
Yeah, changing their lives for the good. Very cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what's not so fabulous about this job. I know personally, I've never been to a psychic. I can't wait to see a reading later, but I think there's some sort of a stigma of maybe that there might be some sort of interpretation of fraud or something. Does that ever happen? Do you ever get?
It does, and in places like this, we always have signs to say for entertainment purposes only, because people get really freaked. And there are a lot of charlatans, and there are a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, as I mentioned before, saying, okay, give me $500 and I'll give you winning lottery numbers. It's like, come on. And So there are frauds.
There are people that actually try to sell you a winning lottery number?
Oh yeah, and there are people too that say, okay, I'll take curses off you when there was no curse to begin with.
Oh,
I mean,
lovely.
and they're really, and I tell people when they come to me for the first time, they go, wow, you are so good, and I really enjoyed it. And I caution them, I say, I'm glad you liked it, but not everybody is like me. I mean, there are a lot of really great intuits and visionaries out there, and I'm not saying don't try others, but if you go into a psychic or a mystic of some sort and they say, oh, you've got a curse against you and you need to give me $500 to light 500 candles, which they do, turn around and walk away.
Okay.
And you're right, there is a lot of fraud out there. Unfortunately, throughout time, and this is very important, a lot of mystics, psychics have been given bad names because there are some unscrupulous people. However, this particular science has been around for centuries. The kings and the nobles, they always trusted their astrologers or their psychics, and sometimes it was really hush-hush. Because if you look, even in our days, various presidents and people in politics, they have psychics, they have astrologers, but they don't admit to it because there are some negative ones, don't get me wrong, but there's a stigma against it, saying, oh, well, that's just hocus pocus. But there really is something to it. There really, really is. And some people are gifted musicians, and some people are gifted mathematicians, and there are gifted seers out there, and gifted mediums. And I think in our culture now, we're becoming more and more aware of this particular art and these gifts, and they are gifts, and they, in my opinion, they are gifts from God.
Very cool. Let's talk about how does a young person get started in this career? How would they actually, become you? What advice would you have to get started?
Well, I think that
Go buy a set of tarot cards, or?
Well, that's one way to start, absolutely. But in my classes, I think it's really important that we do interactive work, where various people ask questions, and you can always learn from someone's questions, just like when you're in school. And also in my classes, like, we will do readings for each other. And you would say, I think this means this, this, and this. And somebody else would say, well, I think it means that. And we kind of learn from each other. But there are ways of learning, and many books. And,
books, okay.
Yeah, and classes and things like that. But it's just a launching point. It's a place where you start, not necessarily where you end up. But as I mentioned before, the more skills that you get, like with any other business, the better you are. Because if someone walks into my room and maybe the cards, they don't want cards for whatever reason, then I do numerology, or I do astrology, or I do palmistry, or
You can sort of tweak the experience that they have to fit who they are.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, love.
I was going to say, would you advise, if I'm trying to get started, just maybe pounding the pavement and walking into a store like this and say, hey, listen, I'll work for free, or can I internship here? Or would that be one way to possibly go?
I would not, for the most part, hire somebody that wanted to intern unless they had been to one of my classes.
Okay.
Because I would, number one, when someone's in a reading with me, I only do one reading at a time. So I would really have to, because there are so many people who don't know what they're doing, I would like to, to train them, and for them to see at least what I'm doing, and then of course they can, tweak it from there. But I want to see how they handle people. I would want to see, like, they'd have to study under me for a while before I would let that happen.
Was that one of your balloons?
It was one of my balloons.
Maybe one of the pelicans out there?
You never know.
Good deal. Getting started, it sounds like it's at your discretion almost. Start with the education and try your own luck there.
Well, for me, as I told you, when I was a young girl, my mother had gone to a card reader. She had never been to one, and it was a psychic party. And my mother said she wanted to know about her children, so she gave this psychic the birthdays, and she gave my birthday, and this lady looked into her ephemeris and said, oh my gosh, your oldest daughter is very gifted. I really want to meet her, which was me. And I met this lady, and like I said, I was in high school, and thought it was kind of strange, as maybe some of the high school kids will think that too, but I went, okay, I'll go with it. And she told me, she says, I think you really have some gifts. And she said, and she gave me my first deck of tarot cards.
Nice.
And she said, you know, I'm having a class. Why don't you come and see if you like it? And I would do the same thing, and I have done the same thing for some young people. But there again, I really believe in education to learn, not just say, okay, I think this card means that, and it does. And here's another thing. I think with psychics, what I've known is that a lot of times people would listen to a psychic even more than they would listen to a doctor.
Wow.
It's true. So your responsibility, and I have experience with this, to be very positive, number one, and you know, there's a way of talking to people and expressing, you know, without scaring the bejesus out of them, you know, so to speak. You know, it's very important how you approach somebody, what you say, and to make sure that you're accurate. You just can't go telling things that you're not sure of, because, my friend, things do change, you know, and what you see today sometimes does change, because we do have free will, and you don't want to scare somebody. And I purposely am very good at not doing that.
Is there a time when a client's future may look bleak, where it might look sort of black, that you have to actually spill the beans and tell them something like that?
Well, I don't really do it that way. You know, I'm a counselor. I've had a lot of psychology classes, whatever. Nobody wants to hear that.
That would be scary.
And not only that, I always say I'm not God. I'm not. Do you know? Obviously. But what I do say is you're going down maybe a crooked path. And the choice is yours, and you need to make some really important decisions to change the direction you're going, because the direction you're going is not really helpful, it's not healthy, and it's not profitable for you, and you're going to be very disappointed and sorry if you don't alter your course.
Sounds like it would help with future customers that wouldn't want to return if they had such a horrible experience.
Yeah, but you know, but on the other side, I would say that if you did this and this and this, and maybe looked at that and that and that, it could help you to navigate the rough water.
Yes. Let's talk about money. Money. How much does it cost to come in here and get a reading?
Cheap.
Cheap.
Almost free.
How cheap?
Almost free.
Okay.
I do a 15-minute reading for $25, which I think is pretty reasonable. I think it's pretty much what the going rate is.
Can I get the full amount of information, or would you recommend? Sounds like it'd take longer than that.
Well, obviously, the longer that you read for, the more information you're going to get. My astrology sessions are longer because it does take a longer time. And when I do astrology, I like to have the person's daytime and city of birth before they come, so I have their natal chart already done. But a reading, but still, even if you came in for 15 minutes, I would still open my ephemeris and be able to tell you where some of the planets were, and basically what you're going through or what you've been through. But then I would blend that or weave that into a tarot reading.
Okay, so about $100 an hour would be the ballpark, right in there?
Well, it's more like maybe $80 an hour.
$80, okay.
But there again, you know, astrology is a little bit more. I think the most I charge is $100. But with my $100, it's astrology, tarot. I do a natal chart that comes with it, and a colorful natal chart and a report. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, if you will. But most people don't come in for that extensive reading. Most people just come in for a 15-minute tarot reading, or even a 5-minute palm reading.
Oh wow, okay, so would that be cheaper than the 25, or is that
yeah.
the minimum?
No, the cheapest is 15.
Okay.
But it's for a palm reading for $15, but it's only for 5 minutes.
Right on.
In our society.
Joy, thank you.
Thank you.
So much. You made a pleasure. Was there any advice that you have for young people when we wrap it up that you'd like to tell the viewers?
Well, you know, I really think you just need to follow your dream and follow your heart. And I have a feeling that I may inspire some of you out there. And even if you didn't want to make this a career, just to come in and either with me or with or read, check it out. And no matter what career you have, you know, your intuition is really important. And I always say, follow that inner voice. Not that loud voice that talks in your ear, but that small, quiet voice inside. And meditation is really important because you can decipher the loud noises as opposed to the true, clear, higher power voice. And stay as clear as you can and get a good education.
Very cool. There it is. Now we know how to become a psychic. Thanks to Joy the Psychic for joining us. Stay tuned for a live reading
with Joy and a client. I'm Freddy Cochran, your host. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
So welcome to my reading room, and I'm going to show you typically how I begin my readings. And I guess the first thing that I always say, give me your birthday, please.
Okay, my birthday is December 14th, 1956.
26, okay, 26 and 5, 31. Okay, so this year you're going through a number 4 year in numerology, which would mean this is a 4 cycle. And the 4th cycle is laying down the foundation. So this particular year coming, you would be laying down the foundation for something. Now, it's a very good year to, if you have a project that you want to launch. But whenever you launch a project, sometimes it takes time to get that project off the ground. But it's very important for you to do the groundwork or the foundation. Come next year, after next birthday, is when you're going to start to see things flourish and change. But this year is a time for you to lay down the groundwork for some major wish or some major accomplishment that you want to occur. What I want to tell you, dear, is I think that deals with relationships as well as with business. So you might be thinking about who you want to bring into your life, because you mentioned to me that you wanted a life partner, who you wanted to bring in, qualities you wanted them to have. But this is a time for you to cement what you need in your life.
Well, there you have it. Now you know how to become a psychic. We'd like to thank Joy the Psychic for joining us today outside Mystical Joy in the beautiful Redondo Pier. If you have any questions about this career or any other career, please visit our website at internetworktvcorp.com. I'm Freddy Cochran, your host. Thanks for joining us. Take care.